things I wanted to speak about. First of all, I wanted to correct what we spoke about last week. I finished off a bit bekitzer and a bit not correctly. The Teres Koyanim we discussed last week about the wild animals when Moshiach will come. There's two opinions. The opinion of Rabbi that Hashem will remove them from the world. There's an opinion of Rabbi Shimon that the Eibusher will make that they won't cause damage. And Rabbi Shimon says, what is the greatest shvach, the praise of the Eibusher, not when there are no wild animals, or when there are wild animals that they're not mazik and they don't damage. The Rabbi discusses in Chelek Zayin, it's a big chiddush. In other places in the Rabbi Sich is not mashma that way. But in Chelek Zayin, the Rabbi explains, he goes through the whole pulp in the Gemara, which I'm not going to get into right now. But the Rabbi comes with the conclusion that according to Rabbi Yehuda, there also be the concept that the wild animals will exist, but they won't cause harm. He says, what is Rabbi Yehuda going to do with the pulse of Igor Zevim Keves, that the wolf will live with the lamb? He's just going to ignore it. He's going to say that it's not true. Alamai, the pshat according to Rabbi Yehuda is like this. First is going to be this man that the wolf will live with the lamb. But that's not the tachlis hashlemus. That's not the ultimate. The ultimate is mavira min ha'elam. The Eibusher will take them away from the world, take away wild animals from the world. What's pshat? What's that spot over here? The Rebbe doesn't type choice clearly, but the pshat is like this. According to Rabbi Yehuda, when you say that the gar zev mkeves, the wolf will live with the lamb, it means that not that essentially his nature as a predator is completely changed or transformed. In essence, he still remains a predator. Just was then a private scafi. What does it mean? The wolf lives together with the lamb. But in essence, he's still called a mazik. He's still called a predator. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, the ultimate shleimus is, even at the time when the wolf is living with the lamb, it's, so to say, he's tolerating the lamb. It's not the ultimate shleimus, because at the end of the day, there's still possible. In other words, it's never going to come out to fruition, it's never going to come out practically, but in the world you still have the concept of someone that's a predator, something that has the nature of a predator, just he's not actualizing it. So the ultimate tachlis hashlemus, the ultimate perfection of the world, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is expressed when at a later point, it won't exist altogether. Usually, in other sikhs, I have to be ma'ayin because it's not fully clear in the Rebbe's. In other sikhs, the Rebbe learned that there's going to be two tkufas. There's going to be skafi and hapcha. First, they won't do damage. Then, they'll reach a higher level, they themselves will be transformed. But in this sikh, at least in the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda, the Rebbe is learning pshat that he holds that the tachlis hashleimus is the ultimate peak, so to say, of perfection in times of Moshiach, is that it won't exist altogether. Not that it will exist and will be transformed. It could also be, obviously depends how you understand.
And that means that their nature won't exist. But their being will be.
You could learn pshat that way if you want. And pashtus, haloshim, pashtus hagemara's mashli pashu won't exist.
Because then it's not a stira with the pasuk of Gar Zev Keves.
No, it's not a stira because it's two tkufas. One tkuf, first tkuf of a gar zevim keves. First tkuf is wolf will live with the lamb. But the second tkuf is a vishpati chayron noras. There won't be no wolf, there won't be no lion, there won't be any wild animals. I don't know if what I'm saying is too correct, but just to give you an insight. You have L'moshel, the Rabbi explains in other sikhs, the Rabbi explains when you get Moshiach in other areas that when Moshiach comes, there'll be very great simcha, right? What's going to be the simcha? That we're rid of Golus. Yeah, but later there's going to be a higher stage in the Moshiach when we won't remember Golus b'chlal. In other words, right when Moshiach comes, we're living in a world that, in other words, put it this way, the whole simcha, the whole joy of a slave that he's redeemed from slavery is only when slavery exists. If the whole concept of slavery doesn't exist, it's not shaykh to say that I'm happy that I was redeemed from slavery. So the Rebbe explains, it's very interesting, we need to think about it. So the Rebbe explains that in Moshiach there will be two periods. One period will be a great simcha. The simcha will be that we were redeemed from Golus. but that means essentially that it's the only reason we could be happy that we're redeemed from Galus is because technically it's still this persecution that happened through Galus is still possible. We're still living in a world where that could happen, and we're happy that it's over. The second period of Moshiach, in other words, in Tchias HaMeisa, will be a total different world. In that world, it won't be shaykh to begin with. The whole concept of Shibul Malchus, of subjugation to other nations, and so on and so forth. So automatically, the whole simcha, the whole happiness of being redeemed from Galus, it will be a different type of happiness. It will be a happiness better, but we won't experience the joy of we're out of Galus. But I don't want to get, these are areas that is not very clear to understand, but in other words, there's a certain stage, when you look at it, there's something negative that doesn't exist anymore. There's two ways of looking at it. There's two stages. One thing is, there's a certain joy that it could be and it's not happening. Then there's the ultimate level where the negative thing is not shaykh in the first place. So according to Rabbi the Vice says, this is what he's learning, that the ultimate shleimus is that not shaykh the mitzvahs of the Zev and Ari. According to Rabbi Shimon Kumtais, is a whole different way of looking at it, that the tachlis ha-shleimus is dafka when the negative thing, and the Rabbi gives an interesting word. The Rabbi says that the animals that are predators could help out a person more than other animals. When you take a lion, you take a wolf, they're much more powerful than an ox. And you know, so if a lion uses out his koyach that he uses to be toitif, to tear apart an animal to help the world, you could imagine it's going to be much greater than an ox. So according to Rabbi Shimon, it's a whole different look, that the ultimate perfection is to use those things that came down at least in a negative way, and to use them out in a holy way. But again, it seems there's two very distinct different ways of understanding what's the tachlis hashlemus of Moshiach. Either that the ultimate perfection is that it's not shaykh anything negative, or the ultimate perfection is that the negative things will be transformed, whatever that means. But it's a very unclear area that I don't feel comfortable speaking. But there's another, in this Nikud, I just want to say, so it's interesting, a mimer of the Alter Rebbe, and it's my mother, the Tzemach Tzedek. They gave out a new sefer recently of Hanochas, not the Tzemach Tzedek's own handwritten notes of his Maimorim, what Chassidim used to write down after the Tzemach Tzedek said it. And that sefer, there's a few Maimorim it has on Pashas Nech, which is based on this point. I assume it's another Maimorim also, but it's based on Alter Rebbe's Maimor. And he has there, discusses a similar word that I mentioned before, but he discusses it on the pasuk V'gar Zevim Keves. And he says, if you look at the psukim that V'gar Zevim Keves and Haftarah of Achin Shal Pesach, it says that V'gar speaks the whole thing. The wolf will lie with the lamb, and the Aryeh and the Doiv will live in peace and whatever. And then it says V'Aryeh Kaboker Yechal Tavin. A lion will eat straw just like cattle does. And the Tzemach, in the Kud of the Maimon, the Tzemach Tzedek explains like this. And I mentioned last time, but I didn't realize it's a whole sugi in Chassidus, that there's two explanations that are given why the animals won't hurt other animals. One beer is the idea of gadlus hamoichin, somebody that his intellect is very limited. He can't stand if something is done against what he thinks is right. Like a small child, he goes crazy if something is done wrong that he doesn't want. When the person gets older, hopefully at least, so then there's an Indian of gadlus hamoichin that he could tolerate. It's not exactly what I think is right or what I believe in, but okay, fine, I'm not gonna, I could still tolerate the person, respect the person, see good qualities in the person. So similarly, a lot of places in Chassidus is discussed that when Moshiach will come, that the world will be filled with the knowledge of Hashem. Kamayim liyom b'chatzim, like water covers the sea, and even the animals will be permeated with the knowledge of Hashem. So the animals also, they're going to tell themselves, the lion will tell himself, why am I better than the shepherd, than this cow? Why should I eat him up? In other words, he's going to, the idea of being violent thus comes from a certain katnus hadas, from a certain limited intellect, when you don't have too much seichel, but when you have gadlus hamoichin, when your intellect broadens, not only you're able to tolerate someone else, you're able to tolerate and even respect and see good qualities in someone that you think that with other things that he's doing is completely wrong. That's one explanation. There's another explanation is that Al Derech, the famous mashal the Chassidus brings, that Rebbe brings in Tanya and other places, Aroisa Sholom Imreimov. The Eibishter, it says, makes peace amongst the Malachim. It says Michal is the angel of water. Gavril is the angel of fire. But they don't extinguish each other. The water doesn't burn out the extinguish. The Michal doesn't take away Gavril. Gavril doesn't take away Michal. Why is that? Well, it says when they're standing in front of the Eibishter, the famous Moshiach Chassidus brings, you have a bunch of ministers standing in front of the king, they lose their individual, they forget about themselves. So they could leave, they could be polar opposites. When standing in front of the king, they act in perfect harmony with each other. So similarly, it says that when there's a great Gilui L'mayla, a great revelation above, so then the opposites fuse together. So Michal and Gavril, they're standing in front of the Eibishter, so they're not Mechab and Zezah. That's one of the beautiful Chassidus gives. They don't contradict each other. So the beer that Chassidus says is that when Moshiach will come, the knowledge of Hashem will be so great. The bittul to Hashem will be so great, as if you're standing in front of the king, that the wolf won't eat up will live in peace with the sheep and so on and so forth. So Tzemach Tzedek says there, he touches up very clearly. He says, why do you need two biyurim? And he explains an interesting thing. He says, the Gor Zeivim Keves is skafia, similar to what I mentioned before. The idea that a person could tolerate, that the person has gadol samoichin, he has what you call broad-mindedness, he's able to tolerate something that's opposite him, doesn't necessarily mean that he got transformed in his essence. It means he could tolerate someone. Really, he feels the guy did this wrong and that wrong, the third thing wrong. But he tolerates him, he's able to see good qualities the person has, he's able to look beyond the negative things of the person. But it doesn't mean that be'etzem he was nisbatel, be'etzem he was transformed. So he says, the Gar Seivim Kevis Ladarach Eskafi. In other words, there's a great understanding of Hashem. So Mela, the lion won't hurt the cow, the wolf won't hurt the sheep. They'll be able, they'll tolerate them, they're not going to try to fight them. But it's not a shinui hamuhus. It's not a change of the essence. When it says va'ayek haboka yechal teva, and he makes a hadgosha that the lion will eat straw. This is already, you can't say he's just tolerating the cow. It means there's a change in his nature. Instead of eating meat, he's eating straw. So that, you can't just say it's misad the gadol samoichin, because abroad, his intellect controls his emotions and everything, so he's not going to eat up the cow, I understand, but how is he going to come to eat straw now? So obviously there's a shinui amuhos, there's an essential change. So he explains there's two stages here. First will be the Gar Zeivim Kevis, that they'll live in peace, that's through that they'll tolerate each other, but that's more similar to what Chassidus calls a skafia. You're not transformed essentially just, I don't mean a skafia in the sense you're fighting with yourself, but you're not essentially transformed. It's not just, you reach a state where you're able to control something, but then he says there's going to be a higher inyan. The higher inyan is that they're going to become essentially transformed. And this happens not through gadol samoichin. This happens through a recognition of standing in front of the Eibishter. When you stand in front of the Eibishter, that's able to be meshana the muhus, is able to transform the essence of a person. Yeah, really, the truth is the Rabbi has in the Sichas also. There's one Sikh of the Rabbi, Shimchas Beis Hashev Sikh, the Rabbi explains that the pasuk says, "The Molor is Zeis Hashem K'mayim L'Yom V'Chasam." The earth will be filled with knowledge of Hashem as water covers the sea. So the Rabbi asks, why? I don't want to go into it. Sometimes the Rambam brings the words K'mayim L'Yom V'Chasam. Sometimes he doesn't. Why do you need the idea that like water covers the sea? So the Rabbi says, knowledge itself doesn't necessarily mean that you don't fight with someone else. On the contrary, if the more knowledge you have, the more you understand things a certain way. Particularly because of your knowledge, it could be you're going to think someone is doing something else wrong and so on and so forth. Kamayim L'Yom V'Chasim is something more. Kamayim L'Yom V'Chasim means you lose yourself. Like water covers the sea, you don't see the ocean floor, you just see the water. It's a recognition of Hashem in a way that you become this battle, you become nullified in front of Hashem, so you lose yourself. You lose yourself automatically, you're not going to fight with someone else. You lose your own personal yeshus, your own personal, you're in the presence of something much higher. So al derech zeh here by the animals comes a similar word comes out based on what the Tzemach Tzedek is saying. The one thing is they will tolerate each other, but a higher thing is it's through the recognition that you're standing in front of the Eibishter. So then they're going to be nishtanim and tziyus, and they'll be changed. Essentially, they're going to transform themselves, and they won't. And the teva, the actual nature will change. They won't have the teva of being a predator. But he explains that one leads to the next. In order for them to come to the recognition, in other words, the recognition of Elokus, godliness in such a way that it changes their nature, first they have to have the Gadol Samoichin. That's the keli that then they can reach the second stage of, recognizing the Eibishter, so to say, being a keli for that feeling of standing right in front of the Eibishter, that they're going to be transformed essentially. So this is Stam a one Nekuda. I spoke about it last week, Bekitzer, but it's I see there's much more to it. There's another Indian Stam, Indian, the Zohar uses the pasuk Leirev Le'ashchisa B'chol HaKochi, speaks about the Yetzer, to explain in the Yetzer Hara. And in Chassidus you have this concept also that when Moshiach will come, it says the Yetzer Hara in its source is really, it says the Moshiach that the Rabbi brings in a Maimon that Alter Rebbe says, Alter Rebbe brings in Tanya that the Yetzer Hara, why is it trying to get the person to sin? In essence, at least in its source, it's not that it has a desire to make the person to sin. It's like Moshiach Hazoyin Ben HaMelech, the famous Moshiach,
It leaves the word Shamash Gadol.
Yeah, the mashal of the Zohar, the Zohar brings a mashal, a parable of a king that wanted to test his son. If he's strong enough to withstand challenges, so he hires his Zaina that she should try to make the son of the king sin. Now everyone understands the Zaina doesn't want the son of the king to sin, because then he's going to be upset with her also, because the king doesn't want his son to fall through. So everyone will be happier off if the son of the king doesn't sin, but she has to do her job, because that's what the king wants. So al derech zeh, it says that b'shoyre shorsha in its source l'mayla, the Yetzer Hara is created to do what the Eibishter wants as well. Just you don't see it obviously. Frat that goes through until whatever. But the Rebbe says when Moshiach will come, you'll see in the Yetzer Hara, you'll see there's a good source that it has, so to say. And when Moshiach will come, that source will be revealed. Now that also it says in the Yetzer Hara and other whatever that it will be in certain areas at least, not pshat that it won't exist completely, but it will only be in a good way.
We don't want his good, we don't want his bad.
Okay. The Eibishter wants his good.
We don't want his bad, we don't want his good.
But the Eibishter wants his good. Yes, the last four is kechsher. That's the whole point of
I wanted to whatever, there's another Indian, not mamish connected with what I did before. Islam, it's an interesting thing. I was mentioning it for a while. It's an interesting thing, Poshet al Pinigel, and you see here where, whatever, we'll see. You have a Maisa that was Shlomo HaMelech. When the first Beis HaMikdash was built, they didn't celebrate it 14 days straight. 7 days of Sukkot and 7 days before Sukkot. And they ate then on Yom Kippur. Yeah? They ate on Yom Kippur. Why did they eat on Yom Kippur? So they made a Kal V'chomer. What was their Kal V'chomer? They said like this. When the Mishkan was set up in Rosh Chodesh Nisan, which was on the Sunday, so that Shabbos, by Yom HaShvi, Nasi Livnei Ephraim, that Shabbos, Shevet of the Nasi, Shevet of Ephraim brought Korbanos. So they said the Mishkan wasn't Kedushas Olam, wasn't the everlasting holiness in the sense that moved from place to place, and there wasn't a Indian Kavua set thing. And the carbon that was brought was a carbon yachid. It was brought, it wasn't a communal thing that all the Yidden took in it. It was Shevet Ephraim or his Nasi. And it was Stoiche Shabbos. It pushed away Shabbos. So Shabbos is Issa skill. If someone violates Shabbos intentionally, could get the death penalty. So he said here the Beis HaMikdash is being inaugurated. The Beis HaMikdash is Kedushas Olam, is a eternal Kedusha. Once the Beis HaMikdash is built in Yerushalayim, Kedusha remains there. It's a much higher level. And we're bringing karbonos that are carbon sibur, because all the Yidden were going to eat the karbonos. And it's only in Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is only kares. It's not skilla. It's not death penalty by base. It's death penalty by heaven. So isn't it for sure that it should be doicha Shabbos? That it should be doicha Yom Kippur, I mean. If they're able to bring karbonos on Shabbos, then they should be able to bring karbonos on Yom Kippur and eat the karbonos. So that's what the Taka did. They ate that Yom The Rebbe said it a number of times. The Rebbe says, yeah. So the So, but then they got afraid. They realized later that maybe they made a mistake. They said, hold on a second. By the Mishkan, the Karbonis went on the Mizbech. No one ate from it. It was Tzerach Kavoya. It was for the Eibishter. Here, on Yom Kippur, it was Tzerach Ered. The Yidden partook of the food of the Karbonis. So they were afraid. So Baskel came out and said, you're all Muslims. You're all, whoever partook in the, don't worry about it, you're all going to get the Elam Haba. Good. So the Rosh was a very interesting thing. You see over here, I don't want to go through the Lamas, didn't go through it myself, but he says interesting thing. He said, what was their mistake that they made? Think about it, man. It's very clear to start off with that the Karbonis they brought in the Mishkan was for David. She brought it on the Mizbeach. Here everyone is eating and thus. He says like this, he taka holds, the way he learns Pshat is that it was taka chet.
It's not, but the shell is not why eating. But Shabbos not eating, you're shechting.
Good, but here they made a kavachomer
for eating. What's
Shabbos? Well, you didn't eat. No, so the Gemara said no. But this is achila. The Gemara says that the karbonos were brought achila shesiya.
But good, but the Isser over there is not the echel the achila of it.
Oh, on Mishkan.
For Shabbos.
Yeah, on Mishkan you're talking about. It's the shchita. Einachanam. They're not. It's not. It's just learning that.
I remember that.
So he says like this. He says they just printed a new volume of his Shuvas, and in the back they have parts of his Ksaviyat that was never printed before. It discusses this barichas. Says interesting thing. He grada learns that it was taka sin. And he learns that they had to bring a carbon apart hell if the Sanhedrin makes a mistake, people have to the kol karbonos have to bring. And he has a whole type that he learns that a Shaina Rabba says, what is the ganze yom tov from a Shaina Rabba? And Al Pi Kabbalah he knows the Chosim Adalamites. He says Al Pi Nig, the Shaina Rabba was the day that they brought the karbonos then and was niskaper for them the chet that they ate in Yom Kippur. That's a whole thing on it. Whatever, I don't want to get into it. Very interesting. It's whatever. But one word he says what was he said like this? He said the nekuda is like this. When they're eating karbonos, it's a mitzvah to partake of the eating of the karbonos. Yeah. But when you're eating karbonos, you enjoy the food as well. Is it just a pure mitzvah, or are you having anos aguf? Are you having your personal benefit as well? So he says you're having a personal benefit as well. So he says interesting thing. He says Shlomo HaMelech thought that we're ready, when the first Beis HaMikdash is being inaugurated, we're already reaching the times of Moshiach. The times of Moshiach is the way it was before Chet Eitzadas. Before Chet Eitzadas, when Adam Rishon ate, did he have any personal hano out of it? Whatever he did was purely pure, just for L'Shem Shemaim, just for the sake of the Eibishter. So he says, when they didn't eat the meat of the karbonos, they were taka doing a mitzvah when they ate it in Yom Kippur. The question is, they're doing a mitzvah, but they're also having personal benefit. So if it would just be a pure mitzvah, yeah. If it would just be a pure mitzvah, so then you could understand it's you could use the whole kal v'chomer that you made from the Mishkan, that it was the Shabbos over here, Yom Kippur. But that's when you're talking about the inyan of kedush, inyan of a mitzvah. Here, if the mitzvah comes together with your hanos aguf, with your enjoyment. So your enjoyment is not a mitzvah already. So when you're eating, you can't say it's kulei kaddish, it's just for the L'Shem Shemaim for the sake of the Eibishter. So he says, the way he learned Pshat, the point that I want to bring out is just how he understands the way eating will be when Moshiach will come. But he says that this was a mistake Shlomo made. Shlomo thought that we already reached the times that now the Beis HaMikdash is being built, we're now able to say it's such a gili are coming down that we're already reaching the state before Chet Eitzadas. Before Chet Eitzadas, there's no such a thing. The whole idea of Chassidus explains the Eitzadas, Toiv V'Rav, good and evil means I feel myself, I feel my own pleasure. Before Chet Eitzadas, Adam Rishon, V'Lois B'Shashim, Medalis was just a mitzvah. He had no physical benefit. It wasn't about himself at all. So Shlomo thought we reached that level. So Mela, the Yidden are eating. True, they're eating, but it's just a mitzvah. There's no personal eating and drinking, no personal hano over here. But then they chapsich, he doesn't touch the rest of his plan comes out, then they chapsich as was, as noch the Mashiach Zeit, the Yidden, they ate it, it's the physical eating and drinking as well that's involved. So we're not yet at that level that we could consider the eating and drinking that's done on the karbonos or brought on that Yom Kippur, that is tzedach kavoya, that is just for the sake of the Eibishter. So they had to bring a symbol. He brings an interesting thing. He touches up. There's a pasuk that says, it's in the end of Zechariah. I think it's one of the Haftarahs also on Sukkot maybe. It's after Gog and Magog. It says that when Moshiach will come, the pots in the house of Hashem will be like the Mizrakim Lifnei HaMizbeach. Will be like the things that held the blood that was brought, that they used to for the Mizbeach. So the Gemara speaks about it, and the Mefarshim speak about it. They say that it means that there will be so much riches then that the same way the Mizrakim, the things that held the gold, the blood, those were made out of gold and silver. So when Mashiach will come, even the pots that they cook with will be so much gold and silver, they make it out of gold and silver. But he says a very interesting word. He says the pots they used for the kohanim to eat. The Mizrakim was used to spray the blood on the Mizbech. Says the same way spraying the blood will be an avodah just for the Eibishter. And the kohanim are going to eat the meat. The Yidden will eat the meat of the karbonos. It's going to be kulei kedusha. It's going to be an eating al derech was before them. There won't be any personal hanasa go from Val. And he goes here. It's interesting how he brings the Gemara Nigla. He brings, like when you bring a carbon, you have to do the carbon l'shmoi. But if you have l'shmoi v'shalei l'shmoi, you have a mind for the carbon or for something else. He brings in different things in halacha where it has to be just for the sake of the mitzvah. So it says it's an interesting thing. It's an interesting way of looking at it that l'asalav poshet the guf hagashmi of a yid will be on the level that the eating, at least he's speaking primarily about karbonos, but still it's going to be kulei kedusha. It's going to be not. This is just a interesting to see it in his oisius. So he touches the ois. He also says a few things. He brings in Moshe Shlomo. He wanted to judge like what Moshiach will do, just by a sense of smell, without witnesses. And the Baskal came out and told him, of course of Yoshe Divrayam, it says in the Torah you can't do that. Basically, you're not yet in the times of Moshiach. It explains the same thing. As Shlomo thought that now the Beis Hamikdash is built, it's already ushering in Mashiach's times. So they thought we're now at the level that. Brings many dogmois also nigla face of sukkah, eating in the sukkah is it tzedach kavoy or tzedach hedyet. He has through a lot of lamas. When you're doing a mitzvah, you have personal benefits. Is it considered just a mitzvah, or is it considered that it's also for me as well? When Moshiach will come, we'll be on the stage. Everything is going to be just the Eibishter.